Hello, and thanks for joining. Tonight we're going to be doing an Astrocasts After Dark session, building a bot. I've done a little bit of thinking about what we're going to do here. I don't have any easy way to share it. But essentially, we are going to be trying to connect to Discord, Twitch, which behind the scenes is an IRC server, YouTube, and potentially AMQP and Pusher. I don't exactly know how all of these pieces are going to fit together, but we're going to see what we can do. I think the easiest thing to do would probably be to work with Twitch. As it's IRC behind the scenes, I think I can probably get that going relatively easily. So we'll probably start there. The other thing I'm going to do is work on this with a React PHP project. So if anyone hasn't ever played with React PHP before, it's an event-driven thing that lets you do asynchronous PHP. So sometimes it can make my head hurt a little bit the few times I've tried it. There is a relatively popular project built around it called Phergie. It's an IRC bot, but they also have an IRC client. So I think we're probably going to use that. And it's built around React. So let's go ahead and maybe start checking out some things. So I don't think I have React here yet, or Phergie. If we dig into Phergie a little bit more, let's see if there's, I remember thinking it was hard to get to their GitHub. There we go. Well, right there, actually, my bad. So the Phergie IRC client is the one that we're going to need. So this actually is sort of a very low-level IRC client. They have something called bot. Let's see where that is. Here we go. Here's the bot. The bot actually is sort of the main focus. And if we look at the way that it works, it's based around a concept of plugins. And the plugins are actually pretty nice because they've done a bunch of things that are useful. They've broken down sort of the core IRC commands that are sent into more meaningful things. So when they set like an event listener for a specific thing, it's a little easier. I think let's see here. I'm going to look at the auto join plugin. Because this was the one that I kind of looked at to sort of get some ideas here. And if we look at that, we can see that it's doing something on Nick serve identified, IRC received RPL, end of message of day, or IRC received error, no message of day. So it's waiting for those. So if any of these events happen, it calls join channels. And join channels then tells the actual underlying client to queue up an IRC join to the channels that are supposed to be auto-joined. When I tried to do a little demo of this earlier, I could not get these events to trigger. And as it turns out, I don't think they actually are handled by the low-level IRC client. They are only handled by an actual plugin. So I don't want to use the whole bot framework. I think that's too much. So it does mean we're going to have to do a little bit extra work. I do have some information in a little test project that I started, just to give you a quick idea of what we have. So what I'd set up with, well, I'm going to have to change this, recycle that pretty quickly. But this is the information that we need. We need to connect to irc.chat.twitch.tv. It's more or less a vanilla IRC server. The username needs to be my all lowercase login name for Twitch. The password is an OAuth password. Server port, and then these were the things that I did so far. I essentially looked at this code, and again, this is very high level stuff. Compared to our very low-level stuff compared to what the plugin interface has. The plugin interface had those nice messages this actually required me to connect to the irc.received command, which doesn't really help us a whole lot because this could essentially be anything. So this message itself has a code, or maybe it doesn't, in which case it's null. And then we look to see for the end of the message of day, because we did, when we do connect to IRC chat for the Twitch server, we will see that there's a message of the day that's printed. And then we issue the IRC join command, and then I could actually send a message if I wanted to. So I could send a message to the Beau Simensen chat, which is the Astrocast channel, and then I can send the actual message. Looks like Joe's joined on chat tonight. Hey Joe, hope you're doing all right. So I'm not actually writing this for the purpose of sending messages. What I'm actually wanting to do is to have the bot sit in all of the channels where I'm broadcasting to. So I'm broadcasting to the places most of the places I mentioned earlier. I'm broadcasting to Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Facebook is just really weird right now, so I don't know if I'm going to pay any attention to that at all. But definitely Twitch and YouTube. So I want to be able to log into the live chat for, there's a live chat associated with a live stream for YouTube. So I want to be able to query that API to get the information for anybody who's chatting there. And then anything that's in Twitch. And then I'm going to set up a live channel on the Astrocast Discord. And that's going to be where people can, if you want to just use Discord and watch on Google or whatever, but you have an actual Discord app up on your phone or tablet or whatever, then you could still communicate that way, and I'd still see it pretty easily because it would all show up in the same spot. So that's kind of the goal with this. Some of the other things that I'd like to do is I want to be able to broadcast then all of these chat messages to my little interface here that I have. Let's see if I can pull this up. So I have this little interface that I started building where I can see what session I'm on, when it was supposed to start, so there's kind of some bugs on that still, and then I can see who's on here. Ideally, I want to be able to see chat as well, so that I can see in this one spot, this one location, where I can see how many people are online, on which platforms, and then be able to see people communicating with me. And I also want to be able to send stuff back out. So occasionally, like if I need to send someone a React PHP message, like if I'm looking at a URL, I want to be able to easily paste that then into chat so that everybody can see that across all the platforms. So there will be a little bit of write, but mostly I'm just going to be reading information. There's some other metadata I'd like to attach with this as well. For example, if I send a link, I want that to actually be associated with the chat for the session. So if we look at this session, for example, if I look at the one that's currently on the air, and I send a React PHP link, I actually want to have a list of links that I've shared so that people can get an easy look at the things without having to read through the chat log. So there's all sorts of things that I'd like to do, but right now we just need to get it started. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a command. So we're going to do bin console make command, and we'll do app bot run. All right, so this is going to be where we do all of our stuff. So let's get in here now. And we're going to probably get a lot of dependencies passed into the constructor, but for now, let's keep this simple. So let's go ahead and sort of get a better idea of what we need. So I'm going to go to the React PHP page, and this more or less just needs a loop, which is just something that runs in the background waiting for things to happen. So I think I can just create one of these. I think many of these packages have like they just use the event loop factory to create a loop if you don't pass one in. So if we look at Phergie and the IRC client, let's see, it was actually not the bot. Let's see the actual IRC client, which I think was at the top. What we can see here is you create a client and then you run the client by passing it a connection. The other way you can do that, which I had to sort of dig around to find, is what I'm doing here, where I can, oh, I'm not actually doing it here. So I'll still have to figure that out. So that's something that we can walk through. But essentially, I need to figure out how to get this to work with an external loop. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at the client, because I'm guessing that I can pass in the loop. Let's see, get loop, set loop. Is there a constructor? Extends event emitter. There is no constructor, but there is set loop. So let's see what run does. Run connection. So it looks to see if there are connections. Auto run is set to true. Okay, so it does get loop run. I'm guessing get loop. What's that do? Yeah, so if it doesn't have a loop, it creates one. So it is still gives me the opportunity to set a loop. So we're going to do that. So we'll just start the way most of these other projects do and create that loop. But I think I might not do it directly in this command. I think I'm going to create a top-level namespace in source, and let's call that bot. And then let's create a class called bot. And let's see. And let's have a function called run. All right, so, and I think maybe let's get the loop at this point. What is loop? Loop interface. Oh, I didn't actually require React yet. So let's do that. First, let's see what we have here. So I was getting it just as a dependency of IRC bot React, but I don't think I want to do that. I think I want React by itself. Let's do Phergie client. I want to see what its dependency is. So we got React. There's a bunch of React things here. So that's a lot of dependencies. Maybe I'm going to be fine not, well, no, I am going to be instantiating the loop by myself. So let me at least require here. So we'll get the event loop, which is going to be good. And then let's get Phergie IRC bot. Move this over here. All right, so we got all of our dependencies, which is good. So now I should be able to type hint for loop interface. Oh. As soon as my fancy IDE finishes indexing. There we go. So we'll get the loop. And we'll go back to our bot run command. And I think I'm going to get the bot as a dependency. That means that we'll be able to wire up a bunch of stuff for free. So let's do private bot. And we are going to have to call parent construct so that we can use our command as a service. If we don't do that, it'll give us an error. But essentially, if we want to use the command from a container, we have to call the parent constructor in order to do that. But that gets us the auto wiring that we need here, which we don't need, but it just makes life a lot easier. So we're going to do this bot run, and we'll do loop. Loop factory. There we go. Create. So we aren't going to do anything else than that, but the fact the loop is this sort of weird thing that sort of needs to be created somewhere, and creating it inside the bot itself didn't really feel right to me. So now our job is to add things onto the loop to do stuff. So the loop is just going to be running indefinitely. At least I'm pretty sure. I think we can actually run this now. App bot run. And I think it's just going, oh, it came back right away. Let's see here, bot. I'm going to maybe change this up a bit. So I don't want the bot to do that. We'll do loop. Loop equals factory create. And let's do bot configure loop. Loop run. There we go. So I think this API is going to make a little more sense, because run isn't really what it's going to be doing. It's actually going to be configuring the loop. And now, if we do this, it should just run indefinitely. No, it still doesn't. Okay, so I must be wrong here. Why is this not? Maybe if there's nothing listening, it doesn't do anything. I'm going to go with that. We're going to see if that works. All right, so now we're going to go and configure the IRC client. So we're going to do some hard-coded stuff in the class at first, and then maybe break some of it out into the configuration later. So we're going to do this, configure loop for IRC, or well, Twitch, be very specific. And then Twitch. All right, so let's take a look at this, because we're going to copy some of this right away. We'll do connection equals new connection. We'll get this information now just from here. Later we'll get this from some sort of configuration. Required settings. Okay. We actually, since we're going to have a lot of stuff in here, I might eventually change that from connection to, I'll do it right now, as IRC connection. And then let's see what we have. So it's going to connect everything for us. We need to create a new client. And this is where I'm not sure if we're going to want to get this from the auto wiring or not. So we might eventually want to do that. Sort of depends on what we end up with in here. So we're going to create the client, and then we're going to start listening to stuff. And let's see here. I need to double check to see what run is actually doing. Client run connection. That's all I was doing before. Let's see here. So connections. So it's adding connections. Emit connect after all. Get loop run. Okay. So I want to send auto run to false because I don't really want it to start until I'm ready for it to start. So we'll do run. We'll do auto run equals false. Let's see what happens if the IDE gives me that. Okay, cool. Okay, so this should be enough to get the loop up and doing something interesting. So just while we're here, I'm just going to print every message we get until that gets super annoying. Let's try to run the bot now. It came back right away. I feel like that means something's wrong. So, configure loop for Twitch. See if it's actually doing that. So it does get that far. Client run connection. Get loop run. Yeah, see, this one works. So what's different here? We're creating a loop the same way. Unless that's not the same. React event loop factory. Just doing React event loop factory. Initializing it if needed. It's like it's not even trying. Oh, okay. So I went out of this way to have it not actually run, but I did not go out of my way to set the loop. There we go. Now things are good. All right, so authentication failed. I guess that's a good thing. Did it fail over here? It did, okay. Ow, okay, so the OAuth token must have expired. So let's see here. This is where it might be nice to have the OAuth stuff up and running. Let's do private, let's see, app OAuth credentials repository. So we actually need to use a actual information here. So let's do this. So we need to ask for something that knows what the credentials actually are. So we can't use this OAuth password. So what we're going to do is get the OAuth get find for Twitch. So this is going to get the OAuth credentials for the Twitch interface, and it may fail. So app OAuth credentials. That. This then has the get access token. So this is OAuth. There we go. This is not going to handle the fact that this OAuth token is going to expire from time to time. So that's something we'll have to handle later. Let's see if this fixes this, though. Authentication failed. Was that different than before, though? Let's do... this is going to mess up the name on our Twitch dashboard, I believe. Yeah, that actually didn't work. Oh. There we go. Now it's going to mess up. Yeah, so this is Astrocasts episode 7. So I'm going to run the actual command so we can get that updated again. But this now assures me that my local Twitch app OAuth token should be current. No, did the wrong thing. Here we go. Just want to make sure that we get this reset to what it should be. All right. Okay, cool. So that's back to normal. And we know that the OAuth token we have is valid and should be good at least for a little while. There we go. Now we're in. So now we need to issue the command to join the Beau Simensen chat channel. So let's actually start doing some stuff here. Nickname. All right, let's go ahead and create another directory called Twitch. And let's call this Twitch config. And this is going to be hard-coded for now. But we're going to want a couple of values. So we want server. We're going to want private username. Actually, let's do host username. That might be all we need. And we'll do getters and setters. And let's do constructor actually, we won't do a constructor for now. Let's do equals value. There we go. We actually don't need setters for these. So eventually we'll get this from our external configuration, but this gets us the ability to start passing around this a lot nicer. So let's go ahead and do private Twitch config. So we're going to do bots Twitch config. And then we can start passing this off right away. So we're going to do this Twitch config, get host name. For this, we'll do get username. Server port, I don't think that's going to change. I'm going to leave that like it is for now. All right. So this message, what are we going to do in here? This is where we're going to copy some of this code again. We're going to switch on the code. And if we get this, we know we can do things. In this case, we're going to join IRC Beau Simensen. But we aren't going to do Beau Simensen. We're going to do Twitch config, get username. So I'm not going to do anything else at this point, but we're going to see if we can actually get us to join. All right. Okay, so we got more information here. So I think what this means is that I've actually joined the channel. I believe this information here says what's going on. Looks like Joe says, come here, little bot. So we're able to see this now, which is awesome. It makes me super happy. We're not doing anything with it yet, but this is essentially the first step. So the end goal is take this information, parse it correctly, and then store it somewhere. So now that I know that we can actually get in here correctly, I think I might switch to doing some modeling. So the general idea I have for the model, yay, got nice little hands in the air from Joe. All right, so let's go ahead and kind of look at a scratch file here, because I'm going to work through what I'd like to do. So the idea is that we're going to be getting from different sources. So I think the information that we need is probably going to be an ID, which is just going to be auto increment or sequence int. I think I'm going to have author, and it's going to be display name, and let's see, ID. So it's going to be the source ID, and then I think I'm going to do type in here. So this will be Twitch, Discord, web, etc. So wherever this message source actually came from. The only reason this really, I think, ties to the author is that it's really going to hook these two things together. So type and ID is going to be what is associating these things with each other. Then we need the actual message. Text, let's see, timestamp, UTC. And session ID. So I'm going to link these then to app entity session. Whether I actually want these to be a proper Doctrine ORM object or not, I don't know. I have to decide in the next 2 minutes how I want to do that. Part of me just wants to deal with this with just straight up plain SQL. But there are a lot of nice things that come with the Doctrine ORM stuff. And the overhead, I don't think I have to worry about the overhead. Until I start seeing thousands of chat messages per episode, I don't think it's going to be a real problem for me. So I think the easiest thing to do would be to just store this as an actual Doctrine ORM object. The things that I'm not clear on, and that I'm just sort of going to be punting on, message here, plain text, I guess. If we look here, if Joe was to say something like message someone specifically, like at Beau Simensen or at something or another, I think as far as IRC is concerned, that's just text. It's just going to have an ampersand with, or not ampersand, an at symbol with the name, and nothing happens. But I know that Discord and probably Google, though I don't know for sure about Google, and I think Twitch lets you message people. Yeah, so this message came to this channel, and it's just plain text. So I think I might just do plain text on here. This actually is a good thing that we're seeing. So we see ping and pong happening. So this is stuff that the IRC client is actually taking care of for us. So that it is actually registering some events that it's handling. At least I'm pretty sure it's handling. I think that's me receiving the ping and I'm sending the pong back. So it is going to do some of the housekeeping stuff for us, which is pretty nice. So the other things that I need to keep in mind when I'm doing these is I need to make sure that I'm listening to the right channel. But we'll get to that in a minute, I think. I'm not going to worry about that just yet, but those are the things here. Okay, yeah, Joe's saying that the client handles the ping and pong for you. Cool. All right, so we have plain text. I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm not going to, I might actually just do this actually as text. I think text instead of a varchar, just so that we have more info. And I'm going to probably flatten these to be author type. You know, I don't... Maybe this makes more sense. Do that, author ID, and display name. And I think I do want picture. Because all of the chat platforms will have that. If I don't record the picture now, people might change the URL later. I'm not sure what I want to do there. But if it's stored here, I can always delete it later if it becomes annoying. I can probably also update those as they're updated. All right. I'll just leave them in here for now. So let's go ahead and start creating our object then. We'll disconnect the bot, see where we're at so far. There we go. So we can keep an idea of where we're at. Let's do session chat message. All right, new property name. So it's going to add an ID for me, so I'm not going to worry about that. Let's see which things I wanted. So I want, let's do source type. We'll do that as a string. Can it be null? No. Let's do author ID. Do integer. I didn't want it to be an integer. Let's start over again and hope we don't make that mistake. Oh, you already have that entity. Let's see if its fields are in there already. What I call it, session chat. The session chat message. Source type. Okay, so it has source type. Let's do author ID string. No. Add another property. Let's see, I want to go back to Scratch. Okay, so we do have display name, so we'll do author display name string no author display avatar. Yes, let's make it nullable. You may regret that later. Do text. No. All right, and then we'll do timestamp, date, time. Let's see what other options we have. I'll do datetime. Can this be null in the database? No. Add another property. Session ID. Let's see, relation. What class should this entity be related to? Session. Each session relates to one session. Relate to many session chat message objects. So it's many to one. Properly allowed to be null. No. Do you want to add a new property to session? Yes. Sure. I think that's it. All right, so let's see now. If we go back here, we now have a really awesome thing that has all the stuff in it for us, and we don't have to do anything because Doctrine ORM is magic. Sweet. All right. I guess it's time to do some work with migrations. My diff. It seems so awesome to be able to do all of this just automatically, and then you pay for it later. So, session chat message, IDX. Gonna delete this. So I'd like to do, I'd like to be able to do some API message paging things. So I want to, just from the beginning, I want to have the appropriate indexes set up. So let me go back to here. Let's see, I want to do ORM table. Let's see what I need to do. So let's do okay, so we want. Indexes, ORM index, name, session message, and the columns are going to be ID, timestamp, and session. So I think this might actually be a case where I need to do session underscore ID. Let's double check. Columns. Take care, Joe. Have a good night. Email names, email options. Let's see if that doesn't break anything. There's no column with name session. Yeah, okay, so this needs to be session ID. I wonder if ID needs to be named something else. Guess not. All right, let's double check. All right, create sequence, session ID chat, index. So ID timestamp. I wonder if it's timestamp reserved word. I run into those issues. Let's see here. It's going to be a problem. Let's try renaming it then. See if this helps any. Timestamp UTC. Okay. Okay. All right. So I think this is probably going to be a little safer. All right, so what we need to do is name this something else. Okay. All right, so it's going to create just a randomly named index. I'm fine with that. Best of all, it didn't break anything. All right, so now I need to do some work in the bot. So we were able to create those. Trying to figure out if I want to do these with commands or not. I almost think that would be the better way. So essentially when a bot receives a message, or this bot receives a message of some sort, it needs to do things. So the option is to either inside handling the message to do an insert into the chat message itself directly at that point, or send it off as a command to be handled from the queue. Not sure which way I prefer. The other thing is this is already pretty busy, this class. So what I think I'm going to do is move this logic into a class under Twitch. So let's call this Twitch driver. And let's move this stuff into the driver. Actually, we'll just copy the constructor too. OAuth. Twitch config now just comes directly from here, which is great. I think I'm going to copy this. We're going to have to import loop interface. There's a bunch of stuff in here that we're going to need. So let's copy this thing. Let's rename this for configure loop. And we're less likely to need to rename that now. So let's name this back to just connection. Right, okay. And then if we go back to our bot itself, now we can do what is it? Twitch driver. And then oh, there we go. That's what was wrong. Configure loop. So eventually what we can do is make this into, if it becomes necessary, we could actually probably create some tagged services and accept a list of driver interface objects or whatever. But I'm not going to go too deep down that abstraction just yet. But the idea now is that we can do Discord driver, YouTube driver, Facebook driver, etc. And then just configure the loop for each of those. So the bot itself is just controlling which drivers are being configured. And then the drivers themselves are where the work gets done. So this is the IRC specific stuff. I'm going to just bring in the client here too. There we go. I don't know what write is or what logger is. I think that might be a PSR7 logger. Where? I think I found this somewhere. Let's see if I can find it in IRC client. No. Maybe it was in the bot. IRC bot React. There was somewhere that had a big list of those names. Let me double check to make sure I can't just find it visually here. Client, read stream, stream. No. I want to say it was like an abstract plugin. There we go. Emitter. No. I think I need to search for this. Because something was doing a big switch on these. Looking at the codes, IRC received, process client event. Message parser, I think that was it. Where is that? It's the event parser. Okay, let's see where that is. So source. Where does that come from? Is there another Phergie IRC client React? Oh, I'm in bot. Maybe it's this IRC event. There we go. I think this is it. Parser converter. User events. There we go. Okay, so let's see. Replies. Okay, so parse message. Clean up and return the response. So I think I already have those, but I want to find out. This code. construct private message. Okay. Not printing anything. Let me do this. Okay. All right, so message. So it's a command, so there's not a code. All right. Let's see what this looks like. This is an action. All right, so we should keep track of the actions as well. Although maybe I don't matter. Or although maybe that doesn't matter. All right, so command. I guess it's still a message anyway. So this is where we would make this thing if we wanted to. So the bits that we have to work with is user, $author ID, which is also going to be the display name. Targets is going to be the thing that we'll check to make sure it's there. So if so this is the thing that checks for that. Break if not. So if it ends up getting messages from a different channel than what we are actually in, then it's going to not do anything. Nick user host command params. Params text. I wonder if this is actually doing some fanciness. No, I guess it didn't do anything different there. All right, so I guess we're getting this from params text. guess what we can do first, say, jumps for joy. I don't think I'm going to do anything fancy with that. Let's just do params text. Okay. So in order to create a new session chat message, we need lots of stuff. Source type. Do Twitch. Set author ID. See, what else did we have? Author display name. We use user again. Set message. And timestamp. Okay. Time. And then session. This is where it'll be a little bit tricky because we need to know what the current session ID is. Which, yeah. The way we do that now is a little crummy. We use the stream manager and we get stream, get session. Get guest session, there we go. Which is going to be super expensive. And it's not going to be very non-blocking async. So this is really going to require some changes at some point. Stream manager. Okay. And then we need to persist it. Which means we need the object manager. Now, the only thing that could turn out hurting me quite a bit here is if it turns out that for whatever reason, Doctrine ORM and React PHP don't work well together. Oof. Fetch all credentials sample. Doctrine DBL pool. Wow. That looks not ideal, but if this is the way that we have to go, then it does mean that DBL, or the ORM, isn't going to be usable for us, which honestly I think I'm fine with that. So let's try this again. Now let's see what happens if I say test message. Aha! Stuff breaks. Awesome. All right, so what did we get? CLI, Twitch driver, persist on null. All right, well, that makes sense. Did I not? Yeah. Auto wiring is super useful unless you keep forgetting to wire it up in the constructor, which is easier to do. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to check my DB. Let's look locally at the tables. There is a session chat message with no entries. Cool. It's sort of what I would have expected. Okay, so we got a hello world message. And we have a hello world message in our chat table, which means that this is working, which is awesome. We don't have a display avatar, which I'm totally fine with that. It's possible I could have this be handled asynchronously somehow, so we may not use that ever. Author ID, it's probably not ideal because it's different than the actual ID we have in user OAuth credentials. That remote ID is more what I'm looking for. So what I think I would probably do in a perfect world is this section of code here would probably send off an HTTP request to translate the user ID into a proper Twitch user ID. So get back the Twitch ID for this. I could also ask for the proper display name. So if the display name that the user uses on Twitch is different than what they use here, or than what their username is, we could show that correctly. And then the message we would show exactly like it was. So as soon as those two things were finished, then it would actually create the session chat message. And the more that I'm looking at this, the more that I think I might want to actually be pushing this on a queue and not doing this sort of flush sort of thing with the Doctrine ORM inside the chat message. I think I could just send it off to a queue, and I think that would be better. But I'm super excited that this is here. So what we can do now is maybe send a couple more messages. And I don't know if anyone else is actually in Twitch chat right now and you want to send a couple of messages, that would be pretty awesome. Just so that I could have some more information to actually use. Chat messages, so we got 3 now. Cool. So I'm adding actual live data, which is good. Okay. So the next bit would be trying to get this information to populate now on the actual UI. So if I go Astrocasts.tests, there we go. So I could try to bring this information in, and I think I might actually do that right now. Not sure if I want to. I don't know what I actually want to do there. I might actually call it a night. I think I'm going to take this as a win. I'm collecting the data. This will give me a chance to start thinking a little bit more about the next step here. I think it's going to involve JavaScript, pulling from an API. But yeah, so that's there, which is pretty awesome. And then I'll also think more about how to streamline this or optimize this a little bit more. All right, well, thank you for joining this session. I will hopefully be doing a couple more of these Astrocasts after dark to get this up and running, because I'm pretty excited to be able to have the live stream interface that I have actually showing me who's in the channel, who's watching, who's communicating, and that sort of thing. So, all right, well, thank you all very much. Have a good night.